Well, hello, everybody. Welcome in once again to another Get to Know the Royals right here on the Queen Sports Network. As always, I'm Mike Glennon, and I'm joined today by our special guest, Mr. Jon Lau, who is the associate head coach of our six-time reigning national champion swim team. And, Coach, thanks so much for taking the time out and joining us here this morning.
Thanks, I appreciate it, Mike. Like I told you earlier, I've been a fan of the whole series, and you do a great job interviewing people, and I've loved learning more about every other program at Queens and other people that work at Queens and alumni, and it's just an incredible place to be overall.
It is that, and I appreciate you saying that. Thank you very much. It makes it seem like I'm actually doing something right here. So there you go. Well, I just mentioned it. Another national title for this program in 2021. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe your first team national championship here as a coach, because obviously there was a couple of individual champions last year, but then COVID struck and they ended up canceling the remainder of that tournament. So, can you just give us the initial reactions of, especially with the last year, how last year ended up and this whole year, about what that feeling was like as a coach to get that first national championship?
Yeah, absolutely. This is my first team national championship, and going further back, I've been a part of as an athlete in college. I was a part of two national runner-up programs at the NAIA level at Lindenwood University, and a part of that program as a coach, I've been a part of maybe two other third place finishes at nationals at the NAIA level.
Doing my research, you have.
Yeah, thank you. And then in 2016, we were runners up to Queens on the men's side at the NCAA level. So to be on the winning side at this point in my career, it's very gratifying, and I continue to pinch myself and go, wow, that was really cool of that moment. But, my overall reactions of the whole thing is, as you probably know, I joined the program a year and a half ago in the middle of the season of the 19-20 season. And we definitely had the teams to contend for our sixth national championship at that time in that year.
Sure.
And to be at the national championships in Geneva, Ohio, and have it cut short right in the middle of the championships, and to stand there and tell our seniors that this was the end of the road for them, it was heartbreaking. And I cried, our staff cried, our team cried, and we grieved for a moment, but we immediately stood back up and we made a mantra of taking care of unfinished business. And I think that whole year, especially the returners that came back and our staff, we had the mindset of taking care of that business and making sure everything that we did in a time of unknown, circumstances in a global pandemic was looking towards March and trying to get our kids to that championship. And I believe that we had a chance just by getting there. Once we got there, we could take care of business, and our kids, had that in the back of their minds. And like I said, we just had to show up to the meet and be able to do it, to have that chance.
Well, like you said, sometimes all you need is that chance just to get your foot in the door. And, it's like a lot of things in life. You get your foot in the door and then you can make your own of it. And that's exactly what you guys did. And you did exactly what you set out to accomplish at the beginning of last season. But, it took you 1 year longer. But, I talked to Coach Dugdale about that and just kind of that feeling. And as a coach, I'm sure that was a feeling that you've never really, or at least on that level, never experienced, of having to tell those seniors and just the raw emotions that come along with that. But can you just allude to a little bit of those guys, both men and women, that stuck around, of course, for this year and had another chance to come back, and just kind of the resiliency you saw from them, and if you learned something from that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we had a good amount of kids that returned for our men's program and our women's program, many of which were very experienced seniors that had won two national championships in, I believe it was 18 and 19, but then had that year cut short. So we had some great leadership as far as people that, just led the way and provide the example of standing up and showing the younger kids and the new kids that came in that this is what our goal is and this is what we're going to do every day to get there. And another big thing was that people always had questions every day of, is the national championships going to happen? Is this season going to happen? Are we going to have the dual meet next week?
Yeah.
And these kids, our leaders and returners, they were incredible in that they had faith in the process, and they know that the program works. As long as you look at all the values and you live that way every day. And they're great examples of that. And the younger kids just fit right in and follow their lead from the very beginning, even when things were very unknown and unpredictable. And there were definitely a lot of moments throughout the year where there was uncertainty. We had probably 5 meets canceled throughout the entire season. We did our best to reschedule and get ready for the next meets, but we constantly talk to the kids about, let's take care of today. Let's just get better today and make it count, both in the pool, in the classroom. Let's just get better and not worry about things that were 5 months down the line and things that you just can't control. The things that we could take care of were right in front of us. And, when you walk into the building, into the pool, I wanted them to check all those insecurities at the door, and let's just have a great workout right now for where it is. And let's be really grateful for being able to be together and train and, not worry too much about things down the line.
Well, it's one of those things that I think both young and old, we all learned a new definition of what the term day by day means in the past year. But, like you said, it's also just a matter of that mentality of eventually you're going to have the opportunity to show all your hard work, but you got to keep putting that hard work in. And I know, that's been a theme that I've talked to a lot of coaches about, is just how impressed they were with their not just upperclassmen, but even their underclassmen, just the amount of commitment that they never wavered. They were just ready to, whether get on the court, into the pool, whatever it is, just to get back out there and just have the opportunity to show all of that hard work and what it actually means to them. And of course, you guys did it in the grandest of all fashions. And, you had mentioned you've watched this program before, of course, and so that we like to talk about your career as both a swimmer and a coach as well. But let's go back to your college career, a 2009 graduate of Lindenwood, which is exactly where you got your coaching career started as well. You were a 6-time NAIA All-American, a member of the first ever national championship relay team for the Lions, and then were honored in 2016 by their Hall of Fame by being inducted. Can you just talk a little bit about your career and what you learned along that led to you wanting to get into coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. Boy, that's a flashback. It's certainly been a long journey, and I, to start out high school, going through college, I never thought I'd be a swim coach. I always thought I'd be a physician. Going through that process, I was a biology major, chemistry minor, pre-med. My father is a physician. He's got 2 brothers that are doctors. My sister's a nurse. My mom's a lab tech. And I always thought I'd go into the science field. But I love science. I treat the pool like my lab at this point.
I like that.
Where I get to experiment and try new things and see how they turn out and take a metric approach to things. But, going through college, I thought I wanted to go that path, and luckily by the end of it, I realized through that process that, maybe I want to try something different. So I stuck around at Lindenwood. I did a 5th year. That was once I graduated in 2009, 2008, 2009, I was a volunteer undergrad assistant coach. So I had finished my 4 years of eligibility and I was sticking around anyway. And I talked to my head coach, Craig Penrose, at the time. And he said, why don't you stick around and help me on the pool deck? And lo and behold, I thought I was going to be working a stopwatch and just kind of helping out and grabbing water and grabbing Gatorade for people. But he gave me a whole group of about 25 athletes who I swam with and said, you're programming everything for the entire year. You're going to run them. And that initial group was made up of mostly IMers, individual medley, and distance swimmers, and some middle distance swimmers. And
trial by fire.
Yeah, absolutely. Throwing me right into the the lion's den, no pun intended, but I learned a lot that first year, and just got the coaching bug, and had in my mind like, okay, maybe this is something I want to do further along. And that role evolved. I became a graduate assistant coach for 2 seasons and just fell in love with it even more. And I was lucky enough that at the time, Lindenwood was moving up from NAIA to Division II.
Yep.
And they were going to add a full-time assistant coach position for the first time in program history. Before it was always the head coach and then volunteers and graduate assistants that were helping out. So I was definitely in the right place at the right time to take advantage of that and move into a new chapter of the program as far as their history. And was very lucky to have my hands all over that and help in a big way. And then I had even more good fortune in that there was a head coaching change, where Jason Owen from Drury University, a perennial Division II swimming powerhouse, who we're still battling all the time.
I was going to say, they're right there next to you on the podium pretty much every year. So
absolutely. So Jason came in from Drury, and he was their distance coach and also swam for Drury, and came in with a long list of a pedigree of national championships. And he was kind enough to invite me to stay with the program as an assistant. And I jumped at the opportunity to learn from somebody new and continue to help and foster the success of my alma mater, which was incredibly gratifying and rewarding and purposeful. And, worked with Jason for a long time. I don't even know how long, maybe 7 years. You probably know better than I do. 7 seasons.
Yeah, I was saying you were there for a total of 9 seasons. So 7 seasons.
So we had a lot of success at the NCAA Division II level. We, our first year, we were sitting up in the nosebleeds at the back of the pool, and we had a couple of kids that qualified. We were probably, I don't know, in the teens with our rankings. And the very next season, our men were third. I think Queens won their first national championship that year in 2015. And we always had our eyes set on competing against Jeff and the Royals. We had a couple moments where we were ranked number 1 in the country. Usually it was in the middle of the season when we put up national qualification times, but it was always fun competing against Jeff's program at the time. And then the next year we were second in 2016 as well. And, so I've always had an eye for what the Queens program was doing. And I always admired what Jeff and his staff were doing, and just the way the entire team looked when they stepped into the national championship venue. All eyes always were drawn to the Queens program because they came in as a unit, and they went through their dynamic warm-up, which was incredibly intimidating for our kids. And
fair enough.
I just always admired how they brought a lot of energy, and they always seemed like they were a unit. They were a part of each other, and they would get up for every single person's swim, no matter what event and what heat. And it's just, for me, it's incredible being here.
Yeah.
That's a long answer. Sorry about that.
Listen, this is the easiest interview in the world for me because I don't even have to ask you questions. You already got the answers. I'm good with that. So, you mentioned you started as a grad assistant there at Lindenwood, ended up becoming the top assistant before you left for both men's and women's side. You were, I don't want to undersell it. You were a very integral part of that success of leaping to the Division II ranks. And then you had the fortune of going on and coaching at camps at the University of Texas, Indiana University, where you got to coach and tutor a lot of great Olympic swimmers, but also you got to work with Olympic coaches as well. And can you talk a little bit about those experiences and what you learned that was valuable in leading to your success in your own coaching career, and especially now here at Queens?
Yeah. Wow. Just looking, man, this is a flashback for sure. Thank you. So just looking back at this whole journey, it's just, I've just been so lucky. Obviously I got lucky with Jason coming in and, inviting me to stay on and go along with that journey. And just having the chance to go to really prestigious Division I programs that had not only Division I success, at this point, Texas they just won their 15th Division I national championship under head coach Eddie Reese.
Yep.
Who was there for 40 years and won national championships over the course of 4 decades. I mean, it's incredible.
That's pretty outrageous.
And then Ray Lewis over at Indiana, and the pro group that he's been able to grow, and they've had success at the Division I level, placing, I believe they were 3rd 2 years in a row.
Yep.
And I mean, I've been lucky, so lucky to be able to go to those places and get invited, you know, to help with their camps. So yeah, let's go back.
You said luck, but I feel like you have a lot to do with that yourself, though, because obviously they all see something in you in terms of coaching wise, and you know it's always, and of course a lot of coaches, especially in swimming and sports like that, they are former swimmers themselves, and they turn that into a coaching career. But that's always got to be a little bit of a weird jump going from you're listening to all the instruction to now you are the instructor and people are listening to you. So, you know,
absolutely.
How is, you know, and I got a sneak peek of that the other day when I was down recording something else in the pool, but you were down there working, and of course you got great technology to work with here, but you mentioned it earlier with that biology background. That interests me a lot in this because it is such a physically demanding sport. How are you able to use that biology background to try and make people better swimmers?
Yeah, I think in my biology background, there was a lot of, I took a lot of anatomy courses, so learning how the body works, and moving through the water is definitely unique compared to any other sport, as far as comparing to weight-bearing sports. In water, we're almost like astronauts. We're in zero gravity, and it is different in the fact that it's a pulling sport as opposed to pushing sports that are pushing against something stationary like land or other people. So for us, we're pulling our bodies horizontally through water, and I always have to think about that and apply that knowledge to, okay, how does the shoulder work? You know, our kids to be able to be avoidant of shoulder injuries, we've got to make sure they're pulling in the proper way that is biomechanically, that the shoulder is biomechanically designed to do, which, you know, we can go down the rabbit's hole about that. But, you know, I also use, being the distance coach at Queens, we do a lot of, you know, and even coaching all the groups, we talk a lot about the energy systems and the different heart rates, as far as what types of training we're working, we're trying to develop. You know, you go from aerobic systems all the way up to anaerobic systems when you're sprinting at high levels. You know, we have to think about what the body is going through at a level where you know, where we're thinking about their physiology, you know, their ability to deliver oxygen to their muscles, you know, and being able to clear lactic acid. All of those factors need to be taken into account, and can't really overdo one thing. You got to be able to build all the systems in swimming. That's a really nitty gritty kind of subject matter.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, just to kind of piggyback off of that, you know, we talk about how physically demanding this sport is, but also, you know, that leads into the mental side of things of, you know, sometimes you're just dog tired, but you got to persevere through it. How do you and Coach Dugdale approach that with swimmers in terms of, even if you are just last gasp effort, how do you pull your mind through that and help pull yourself through the water?
Yeah, you know, I think Jeff, Nick, and I, our other assistant coach, you know, we use our workouts throughout the week to build up their mindset. You know, when we get to national championships, over the course of a 4-day meet where you're doing prelims and finals every day, and you're swimming upwards of, you know, it could be 14 times through 4 days. You don't want to show up and never have been tested on a daily basis. We want them to show up and almost look at the national championships as something easier than what they've done.
Just another day in the pool.
Absolutely. So one of my biggest philosophies is always to make sure that I'm challenging the athletes and writing workouts that challenge them both mentally, not just physically. And a lot of that goes hand in hand as well.
Sure.
They've got to have the mindset to push through, like you said, and be able to get to the end of a race and end of a workout and still peak really high. In a distance race, when you're swimming a mile, upwards of 15 to 16 minutes, you're going through all of those types of emotions and you're basically in your head the whole time, staring at the black line, racing people, and you got to have a mindset to be able to finish really hard and come down to the touch when it matters. So that's
Sure.
something we work at all the time, and something I talk about all the time. Just building their building their toolbox, and preparing them for things that are going to happen as well. Preparing them for, okay, maybe this person's going out faster than I am, but I know I'm sticking to my race plan. I need to have the mentality and the strength to stick to my plan and know that it's going to work out at the very end and beat them at the very end. Because everybody's got different race plans and strategies that fit them as individuals. So they've got to be prepared for all sorts of scenarios to happen.
Well, and you said it back when we were talking about the whole COVID idea over the past year. Control the controllables, and you got to be able to focus on you, because like you said, another person can be doing whatever they want in the water, but it all boils down to what you're doing and how you can pull yourself through and just sticking to your game plan. And obviously you and all the coaches work day in and day out, not just with them in the pool, but outside of the pool as well, in terms of making sure that they go to class and that they stay sharp mentally that way. And then, like you said, you're writing workouts all the time that are individually structured for all these folks. It's not like you just write one for the entire team. You have to individually tailor them to what each individual person needs. So that's always just been a point of swimming that's always been interesting to me, just because, I was never a swimmer myself. I mean, I'm lucky if I can dive into the water without plugging my nose. So, it's one of those things that it's always just been so impressive. I just think of kind of the Olympic idea of swimming and watching guys like Michael Phelps and name an Olympic swimmer, and just the kind of, effort. It looks effortless in the water, but then you think about the hours and hours of dedication that goes into getting yourself into that physical condition. It's astonishing. So, like I say, you guys have obviously found some sort of success with what you do in and out of the pool. So a big shout out to you guys in terms of getting those young men and women ready for a stage like the national championships. Before we talk about this year's team, I do want to say, and I would be remiss without noticing the fact that you are a U.S. Masters national title winner in the 400 individual medley at the 24 to 29 age group, and then you won another at the 100 fly and the 30 to 34 age group. Not trying to date you by any means, but can you talk a little bit about that kind of feeling, especially as you're moving along in your coaching career, because obviously at those times you're well into your coaching career. How fun is it to get back in the pool yourself?
Oh, it's incredibly fun, and to add more context to those events, I'm very involved with the Lindenwood Swimming Alumni.
Okay.
I'm a part of their Facebook page, and I always put up updates on what people are doing. And every so often, it seems like every 5 years or so, a bunch of alumni get together and say, hey, we're going out to Masters Nationals. Let's all train for the next,
all right,
I don't know, 6 months or so. And
that
like
may
look different for different people.
Keeping each other honest.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. There's safety in numbers for sure. So I definitely couldn't have done those things, by myself. But swimming is a lot of fun. People think there's a lot of drudgery in it and just looking at the black line and just going and being wet and cold. But it was always fun for me at Lindenwood. Our staff would get together and swim, for an hour, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, just after workouts. And it definitely helps us become better coaches as well. When you get in the water and you remind yourself of, oh yeah, this is the way they're feeling when they're doing certain drills. And you actually tend to come up with new ideas when you get in and, use it as a lab, like I said earlier, and just play in the water and reconnect with it. And, remember the sport that I fell in love with so many years ago. And, so there's a camaraderie component, and there was a there was definitely a coaching benefit for sure. And going back on the pool deck, I would be a better coach just by talking about, what I did that day in the water and what I learned and still learn. And Nick Erickson does that for me now. He gets me in the water every so often nowadays. He's training for the Olympic trials for his third one, and he'll be competing for an Olympic spot in June. You should interview him next, please.
Hey, absolutely. Well, you mentioned it there, and that's such a cool idea in terms of knowing that you're now swimming, but you have a coach's mentality. Before, when you're in your academic career, you're swimming and you're just thinking about being a swimmer, whereas now you have both mindsets that you're playing with, and it's kind of cool that you can use that to your advantage in terms of the coaching itself. Well, before I let you go, can you just expand a little bit more on what we talked about with this year's team? Of course, the perseverance they showed to get to that sixth national championship, and just kind of why this team is so special, and what makes you most excited about next season here at Queens?
Oh my goodness. So I told the team, after nationals, literally the night that it was all over, we had a big powwow where everybody spoke on the team. And when it was my turn to speak, it was, obviously I'm incredibly proud of what they went through, and, all the uncertainty. And we had some shutdowns where people were knocked out because they tested positive and they had to quarantine for 2 weeks, or they were contact traced. And, we definitely were not a team that was immune to it. And we went through a lot of ups and downs. And like you kind of alluded to earlier, I told them, what I've realized is that we are all so much stronger and so much more capable of so many more challenges and things than we ever thought of before the pandemic. And just more resilient and able to stand up again and again and again, and not get knocked down for too long. And nationals was a perfect example of that as well. I don't know if you know this, but the first day where we were supposed to have prelims and finals, we had the prelim session.
And the tornadoes, right?
They canceled the finals because of a tornado storm, system that was coming through.
And that had to give you such a weird sense of deja vu from a season ago. You know what I mean? Yeah, no, I get you.
Yeah, you got it. But luckily, looking forward, people were able to kind of predict the weather for the next day, and that we were going to be able to have the meet, as normal after that. But literally, you had to just sit there and kind of laugh and chuckle and go, of course.
Yeah.
And our kids were incredible, and incredible. And it was just one example of them being able to go, okay, I'm ready for the next thing. This is fine. Anything can happen, and this happened. So I'm sticking to my plan. It's going to be fine. But it was incredible.
Well,
I'm so proud of the kids.
Well, and that's the thing, it is incredible to just understand and not just in the pool, but with this entire athletic department. That's been the one thing that's been kind of that centralized theme that I've heard from a lot of coaches, just how this might be one of the most proud moments in their career, national title or not, just because of the way these kids bought in at this age, where you could easily just fall by the wayside and go do your own thing. But they all bought in and they all stayed ready to go. And then, of course, in your instance, they were able to stand atop a podium and bring home the 6th national championship consecutively here at Queens, and really kind of no signs of slowing down with this team heading on into the future. So, Coach, I appreciate you taking the time out and joining us here. I know, I always make that joke, there's an off season, but it's not really an off season because you guys are right back in the pool training, getting ready for next year. And of course, you guys have different things going on during the summer and all that kind of stuff. So I appreciate you taking the time and glad to have you on here.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. It's been fun.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations again. And that'll do it for us here for another Get to Know the Royals here on the Queen Sports Network. Make sure you join us each and every Tuesday right back here at 10 a.m. on the Queen Sports Network on YouTube. Have a great day, everybody. And as always, go Royals.